I told this story in a thread I posted yesterday, but I'll post it again. Before I post my personal story, I need to fill you in on the legend. So strap yourselves in /x/. This is the legend of the Lost Lights. Chapter 1. Part 1, The Mountain. It all starts off in the mid-1800s. An expeditionary force of 25 men go exploring in the mountain ranges of British Columbia, looking for suitable places to start a mine. They hike up a mountain and camp there for the night. That night when one of them gets up to go relieve their bowels, and trips, and hurts their leg in the dark. In the morning it is decided that 12 men will help the injured man down the mountain and back to civilization while the rest of them, 12, continue on ahead. So the group splits up. They hiked until the evening. One of the men noticed it had gotten considerably colder. It then started to snow slightly only minutes later. He expressed his concern that they might get snowed over in the night. The others laughed it off. They joked and teased about him being scared. Part 2, The Storm. As the evening turned into twilight, it got colder and colder, the snow got heavier and heavier. They had gone a ways up the mountain, so it was a difficult and deadly situation if the storm got worse. The snow showed signs of not letting up, in fact, it was surely to become a monster storm. The 12 men faced a tough situation. They needed to get back down the mountain, or else they would freeze to death. They left their tents and took what was needed. They started back down the mountain in the raging storm. They each lit their oil lamps as they headed down. Because of the blizzard that ensued, they could hardly see the light of the man in front of them. The man who had noted the snow earlier, Jacob White, had lost sight of the lanterns, in fact. All of them seemed to have. They walked around aimlessly on the mountain, calling out, trying to find each other. Just when it couldn't get any worse, the wind became even stronger. Jacob knew he had to get down the mountain or he would die there. He stopped trying to find the others and went with the slope, slowly making his way down. He managed to get down the slope and to the base. Part 3, The Lights. Jacob ran to find the 13 men that were headed back to get help in rescuing his comrades. But he could not go on any further, the storm had spread to the bottom and across the valley. He found a nearby cave where he would spend the night. As the night progressed, he watched the lights of his fellow expeditionaries wander endlessly across the mountain in the hellish snowstorm. Throughout the night he watched them. The first light went out and disappeared at around midnight. Others followed in the next hours. One by one, they extinguished. Jacob hoped, prayed, that at least one light would last the night. The last one went out 3 hours from the first. All hope was lost. In the morning, when the storm cleared, Jacob headed further into the valley to find the 13 men that had gone back earlier yesterday. When he found them, there was only 2 left alive. The rest had died in the storm that swept down from the mountain and into the valley. The men and Jacob exchanged stories. The men told Jacob that they had seen the wandering lights up on the mountainside. The 2 men only found out in the morning that 11 men had died in the night from the cold. Part 4, The Dead. 3 weeks later, an expeditionary force of 20 men including Jacob, returned to recover anything of those who had died in the storm. They found the remains of the 11 men in the valley easily enough. They recovered their personal effects and what little bone they could find to bring back to their families. There was not much left of them from the wildlife picking at them. The bodies of the men who died up on the mountain, however, they found none, no sign of them. Gone without a trace. They searched until dusk. Then, the air got colder. Light snow began to fall down. Just like on the night Jacob's comrades met their end. They hightailed it down the mountain and into the valley. They made it into the middle of the valley and made camp for the night. Then storm came down from the mountain and into the valley just like last time. Just like the night when Jacob lost his comrades. It got colder and colder in the valley, as the storm continued to barrel down from the mountain. Part 5, The Lost. That night, Jacob and the men saw something that they could not quite believe. They saw lights, wandering upon the blizzarding mountainside. They watched from their individual tents throughout the night, as one by one the wandering lights went out. Jacob knew that it must be the spirits of his friends. Jacob wondered why he only saw 10 lights when it was 11 of his friends that disappeared. Up on the mountainside. Had one survived? Could one of his friends still be alive? Somewhere, lost out there in the wilderness? Where was the lost light up on the high? Answers came in the morning. Answers of where the lost light went. When Jacob awoke in the morning, the storm had cleared. Jacob and the 9 other men stepped out of their tents. 9 other men. 10 men had died from the cold that night. They must have died one by one in the night, succumbing to the cold. One by one, the 10 men's lives, snuffed out by the cold. Snuffed out like the 10 lights up on the mountainside. Chapter 2. Part 1. And now /x/it is time to share my personal experience with the lost lights. Be me. 35. Have 3 teenage boys. Decide to go hiking with my sons, my buddy, and his 2 sons. We drive out to the edge of the wilderness at 4 a.m., park the car and start hiking at 4:30. We hike all day, only stopping at noon shortly for a quick lunch. We are walking at a decent pace. We reach the middle of a valley in the evening. We decide to camp there for the night. We ate a quick dinner and everyone went to sleep pretty quick after that from being tired from the hiking. Everyone went to bed but me. I decided to stay up and drink some beers and chillax in a fold-up chair I brought. I sat there staring at the sun that just set behind the mountain range. It got pretty cold after the sun set. Put on my jacket. Then, the fireflies came out. They danced slowly across the shape of the mountain. These fireflies were pretty weird. They didn't leave the shape of the mountain, and they didn't flash like normal fireflies. Then it hits me. Holy shit, oh fuck.jpg. Immediately get the fuck up and wake everyone. Part 2. Tell them to pack their shit, and we gotta move now. My buddy asks, what's wrong? What happened? Me, I saw them. Buddy, saw what? Me, the lost lights. Buddy looks over my shoulder and sees the lights on the mountainside. He then notices how cold it has gotten. Buddy rushes to pack everything up with the kids. We hike back as fast as we can. The boys had overheard what me and my buddy were saying. Dad, what is the lost lights? Why are we leaving right now? Can't we leave in the morning? No, I said, and I proceeded to tell them the story of the lost lights while hiking back. At around 2:30 a.m. we managed to get back to the car, and we hightailed it out of there. I drop my buddy off and me and my kids go home. I woke up at noon. Found out from the weather station there was a huge snowstorm that swept the valley we were in last night. Here comes the really scary part /x/. I saw 7 lights up on the mountainside. There were 7 of us on the trip. And that /x/ is my experience with the lost lights.
Sure thing. Here it is. I might have shared this in a past thread, I can't remember. I recently received a telephone call from an experiencer who is a medical professional living in Palm Springs, California. I'll refer to him as Mike. This specific incident occurred in the winter of 1999 when Mike, his brother, and 2 other friends were young men living in southeast Los Angeles. One afternoon, they were hanging out at one of their homes, when they all experienced a sensation of urgency. Each man described the same feeling that they must get to a certain location ASAP. They somehow knew where they needed to go, but had no idea what they would find there. Their urge to get to the mysterious location was so intense that they actually stole a relative's van. The group drove northeast towards the San Bernardino Mountains, an area that none of the young men was familiar with. Mike stated that he had no recollection of the trip, aside from feeling that they were heading in the right direction. Suddenly, the entire group screamed in unison, "Stop!" They found themselves on a gravel road, and they quickly piled out of the vehicle. By this time it was totally dark, but they all knew in what direction they needed to walk. Mike said that they were walking through an area with large pine trees, and it was much cooler than the city, but no one was complaining. They hiked for about 45 minutes, until they all felt that they had reached their destination. In a small clearing, a black rock was found that was shaped like a perfect cube. Mike thinks it was about 5 feet square and all of the young men could see it without a flashlight. They scampered onto the top of the monolith and collapsed into a deep sleep. Then suddenly, they all woke to the sound of something heading in their direction. There were hundreds of white orbs of various sizes darting through the trees around them. They were making very unusual sounds which scared Mike and his friends. They immediately jumped off the rock and began to run in the direction of Van, but the orbs chased them through the forest the entire way, buzzing all around them. They knew that they were getting close to the van, when the orbs suddenly disappeared. Within seconds, they were abruptly confronted by several large dark-colored vehicles with bright searchlights. Mike said that he doesn't know how or from where the vehicles suddenly appeared. They seemed to emerge from out of nowhere. A loud human voice yelled, "What the hell are you doing here?" Mike said that none of them responded to the voice. They were too confused as to where the vehicles came from to answer. All of a sudden they were hit with an awful bellowing that seemed to come from above, and they all fell to the ground. That's the last thing that either of the young men remembers from the location. Many hours later, Mike said that his brother was shaking him awake. The 4 men were all in the back of the van, each suffering from a throbbing headache. Mike opened the side door. He said that as the sunlight hit him in face he instantly felt ill. The young men looked around and realized that they were in a grocery store parking lot. People were going about their business, giving them strange looks. Mike stated that they eventually figured out that they were in Riverside, California, but they had no idea how they got there. Mike says that after this incident he and his brother have both had encounters with unknown beings, but he's unable to recall many details. I asked why he was coming forward after 18 years. Mike said that he wants answers, but has been unable to get any information. He doesn't remember the location of the monolith, almost as if it was wiped from his memory. But he and the others know it happened exactly the way it was described here.
I regularly go for nature walks and hikes with a good friend of mine who has a knack for finding out some good places to visit. This one time he decided we'd check out a particular gorge which apparently had a fairly safe means of descending to the bottom to walk alongside the river. Sounded good. After an hour and a half's drive we get to the place. The gorge stretches and winds for what looks like miles before a tree line cuts off our view from the stony bridge we parked along. It's easily close to 80 feet deep, with a somewhat calm river stream flowing through the middle. The one thing I remember being excited about was, in the light of the high noon sun, we could see the inside of the gorge quite clearly. The lower layers of rock was made of some kind of red sandstone, and in that light, it made the river look blood red. It looked awesome and we were both eager for a closer look. Now came the tricky part of finding our way down. The edges of the gorge descended into a steep slope before ending in a sheer drop. It was only when I started looking down said slopes that I developed a case of vertigo. I pretty much discovered that I was afraid of heights that day. In my nervousness, I stayed at the top of the slope, while comrade Anon braved down the steeper embankments to get a closer look at the edge. I could only mutter a begrudging, "Watch your footing," as he laughed at my abrupt case of faggotry. I wanted to go down, I really did. But taunting images of me slipping on a patch of wet grass, hanging for dear life off the side, or feeling a sudden rush of a perilous drop, froze my feet to the spot. My friend's feet were not as frozen as mine however, because halfway down the slope he lunged forward in like a swan dive, and tumbled erratically down the slope towards the edge of the gorge. On his way down, he slammed into a withered old tree and clung to it for dear life. With a mix of fearful caution and worried desperation I started to make my own descent down the slope after him. I was trying to think up some words of reassurance, but all I could blurt out was a mix of shit, fuck, oh Christ, and words to that effect. By the time I reached him, his face was bright red as if he had been strangled. Tums out, his lower half was dangling over the edge and he had been struggling to pull himself up. I felt bad about not getting down there quicker. But once back at the top of the slope, my friend is supremely pissed off, shoving me backward, exclaiming, "Why did you fucking push me?" I didn't, I replied angrily. He didn't believe me. "You fucking idiot, I almost died, you fucking prick." The argument lasted only briefly. I sincerely and repeatedly mentioned that I wouldn't do anything that damned stupid, and to top it off, I was standing at the top of the slope, nowhere near where he'd been. He seemed to reluctantly accept my explanation, second-guessing himself I guess, and we drove back in awkward silence that afternoon. To this day he swears he felt someone push him. And I remember the moment he fell, like a frozen mental snapshot that just burned itself into my eyes. He didn't slip, or lose his footing, it looked like he had lunged down the slope, like a salmon trying to leap above the water. Like he'd been pushed forcefully. For all I know, maybe he was trying to kill himself or something, then tried to blame it on a phantom when he lost his nerve and changed his mind while dangling off that edge. I'm not one to believe in ghosts, but you guys like this stuff so I figured I'd share. So yeah, true story. My friend didn't speak to me a few weeks after that sudden plunge, but when he started to ease out of his butt hurt, I asked about the gorge we visited. Armed with its name, I did find some interesting notes about it. Namely that it had been closed off to the public due to the number of deaths surrounding the area, with tourists, hikers, and gorge walkers all slipping and falling into it. It seems it claims lives regularly. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my tale.
Be 16 or 17, don't remember. Mid to late September. Hanging at friend's house in mountain forest area with 2 others. Have bright idea to go hiking. It's a bit foggy out, and it would be getting dark in about 2 hours. Good shit for me, fucking love weather like this. We don't take anything with us. Get quite a bit from the house and neighborhood. Hike up a wash, if you're unaware, washed out large stream that only has water when it rains. Nothing of interest happens for a while. On our way back down the mountain, we stop on a very steep ledge and sit around and talk for a while. This ledge overlooks a small bridge and paved road that goes through the wash. After a bit of shooting the shit, one friend goes dead fucking silent. Is looking toward the road. We all follow suit. Walking casually down the road is a dog on its hind legs, looks kinda like a Jack Russell Terrier breed. Easily 7 feet tall and sorta half holding a rifle with one arm, leg. On its side, doesn't notice us until about halfway across the road. Then snaps its fucking head toward us and looks wide-eyed like it's just as surprised to see us. Begins to ready rifle. All of us begin running and climbing back up the wash. Takes one shot and misses poorly. Begins to chase after us. At no point does this fucking abomination get off its hind legs. But God does it move fast. It can't climb for shit and stupidly left its gun behind. We just stare at it for what feels like forever before it fucks off. Hours later we walk home in complete darkness and don't see it ever again.
Be Australian reservist because I want a degree and to have a life, but I also really want to shoot guns and get my combat skills on. Go out every few weekends to train over a couple of nights out in the woods. That's right, woods. I'm in the little cold bit of land dangling off of Australia's ass. Summer's pretty hot, but winters can be cold AF. One such winter be out on training, learning to tactically around the bush with based minimi. Also have combat knife on webbing because why the fuck not? Normal day, few mock attacks with blanks, lots of bush bashing and leeches. Harbor up on the side of a hill, just in the tree line overlooking a field full of dead white trees. One of the features of this state is these big fields with nothing but grassy bush things and dead trees. Picket rotation, get given the shit part of the night. Woken up at 0 fuck o'clock, pointed in the direction of the pit and then the guy just goes to bed. Standard procedure is to walk the drowsy new sentry to the pit so he doesn't get confused in the dark. Jack motherfucker.exe. Stumble my way over to where I think the pit should be, there should also be another bloke there. Pit was located under a big bush, but all of a sudden there seemed to be a lot of those about. Head under one, no luck, get turned around and end up walking around for like 10 minutes. Start getting really wrong feeling, hard to place. I should not be here, not with a weapon, not treading on these plants. Shivering in the cold, wishing the link on my gun wasn't just blank. Eventually orientate myself and find the pit. Pit kind of related, thicker grassy shit in a bigger field though. Get down in pit, find the other GY snoring because slackness. Settle my bum down, wrap up tight and start feeling better. feel fully awake, so decide not to bother waking the guy until it's his turn to go wake another up. Staring out at the field, munching on M&Ms, one hand on the grip of the minimi, feeling Banes to steal over me again. Something doesn't like me being here. It sounds crazy, I know, but I mentioned this feeling to another guy and he said he knew what I meant. This is an old country, bro. Clouds begin to part above me, bring in the moonlight, but let out what little heat there was. Mist on the ground, half moon in the sky, I begin feeling something new. Like a vibration, but super deep, a hum in the ground. I feel it through my arse, and when I put a hand down I feel it travel up my arm. Silent at first, but slowly begin to hear something. Sounds like something in between throat singing and a generator. It's ringing in my ears, getting louder. DEFCON 3, wake up pit buddy. Sound disappears, pretend all is normal. Not long until he goes back to bed anyways, lucky cunt. Staring out at the field, I might have seen something in the grass bush things. Nothing definite, just a vague blackness. Ignore it, keep hugging minimi and breathing into my shirt to keep warm. The time has come to be left alone until I can get a new friend to suffer with me. Pit buddy leaves me alone, begin to feel fear again. Draw knife and hold it under my jacket, at least a knife is a real weapon. It happens. The noise and vibration is back, really loud, feeling jittery as fuck. Can't believe it wakes nobody, but people quite close to me heard nothing. Staring out, increasingly freaked out. Suddenly see a head in the grass. At least, kind of a head. A black circle with white eyes staring right at me from barely 20 meters away. DEFCON 1, shoulder minimi because training. Thing just stares at me as the noise carries on. Pick of the sort of grass. Just sit there for like a minute, staring this thing out. Don't even notice that the noise has stopped. Hear the new guy coming over, look around to see him and his escort, the guy who just left. Look back and see that the thing has gone. Barely even talk to the new guy, just sit there staring around, must have looked super keen. Just don't want to get eaten. Checking watch, desperate to get to the safety of a sleeping bag. When the time comes I find my guy and, like a good soldier, lead him to the pit before I turn in. On my way back, it happens a third time. Oh fuck. Drop minimi, draw knife, standing in the dark with this noise in my ears and moon shadows everywhere, no idea where to look. Freaked out beyond words, whimpering a bit, call me a bitch if you like, something out there made me feel fear like I've never even imagined. Then it's there, in front of me. Barely 3 meters away, a little black figure, barely a meter tall. You wouldn't believe how scary a little black humanoid could be unless you saw this thing. White eyes, little white spots glowing up his body, and I can tell now that it's doing the humming. I try to make a noise but I feel paralyzed, I can't make a noise louder than a little whimper. Thing flows towards me, that's the only word I have for it. Didn't walk, was just suddenly and seamlessly climbing up my body. Silently screaming, mouth working, throat feels closed. Thing gropes at my hand with the knife, little fingers were strong, man. Still trying to scream, unable to move. It only lasts a few seconds before I'm dropping to the floor, I feel like a fucking puppet without any strings. The next thing I knew I was awake, and only a minute or so had passed. I was lying next to the gun, and I basically just picked it up and ran back to my bag, where I slept immediately. I never told anyone about the thing, and I never got that knife back. No idea what it was, nor do I want to know.
Time for some fucking OC. I don't even give a shit if anyone believes me, I just wanna get it off my chest. Live in boonies. Basically forest, gerrymandered by houses and farms that go in and out of repair. There are several other houses right by mine, but I talk to the neighbors exactly none. A fact I'm glad for because the community looks like some straight up Silent Hill shit sometimes. There's like a weekly spoopy happening, to the point where I got so bored with it I just shrug it off as the status quo. Several weeks back, this changed. The time is 10 AM, and I'm savoring being a lazy fuck for not having to go into work that day, drifting in and out of sleep. Suddenly ear-splitting roar. All of my what? Check laptop, I do comedy YouTube playlists to help me get to sleep, Just music tends to put me on edge for whatever reason, to see if it's an ad. No ad playing, halfway through 2-hour video. Nothing in Darkseed 2 makes the sound I just heard. Even if it had been, something that loud would have blown out my laptop's rather shitty speakers. Slightly confused, turn off pending alarm and drift in and out of consciousness with laptop on bed so I can roll over and check if I hear it again. 2 hours later. Halfway conscious. Screeyank motherfucker, forgot about me. The roar both sounded louder and closer. As well as clearer. It sounded like the bastard child of a bear roar and that foghorn cry Godzilla makes. Tactically what? Sounded like it came from behind house. Decide I'm not sleeping until I find out what made that noise. Grab lightly ruined oaken hiking staff. Grab fireplace poker. Bathe both in ash as whatever the fuck made that noise was clearly not of this fucking earth anyways. Trek Innawoods. Check glove compass to double check I haven't been turned around like I had before in the same woods. Glove compass is going beyond fucking nuts, spinning like a top, occasionally pointing towards direction of clearing I visited before with friends. I am a clearly sane, rational, and level-headed individual, so obviously I go towards the noise as I get closer, hear thrashing in the clearing. As well as a cow. There's a dairy farm next to my house, but I don't recall Farmer Dan breeding fucking mutants. Start to see shit that's clearly off. Large movements through the gaps in the tree line. Low rumbling sound. Unnatural heat, suddenly very glad I hadn't changed out of my sleep shorts. Occasional burn mark on the ground. Yes, I am that retard in the horror movie that moves towards the live hellmouth apparently. Eventually get to clearing to see what the ruckus is about. Peek out from behind tree. It's a fuck mothering dragon. Or at least that's what I'd fucking assume. Think less Tolkien, more Lovecraft. It had pale gray skin that looked like boiled konjac, to the point where it appeared actively wet. It was hexapedal, balanced on 6 squat legs that looked like an elephant's more than anything. There were a pair of massive wings on its back that looked like they could actually lift the monstrosity off the ground, even folded they seemed beyond massive. Its tail looked like it had been stumped, not in the way that it had cut off, but there was some sort of bulbous mass where the tail was supposed to continue. And then there was its head and neck. It was like some kind of fucked up xenomorph. Recesses where its eyes obviously should have been, but they seemed to have skin over them. Yellow teeth sticking out its closed maw on both sides, painted red with the gore of the cow it had just finished eating. And that's when my brain got a chance to catch up from holy fuck dragon and got a chance to look at the rest of the clearing. It was totally scorched. Like, basically everything was blackened. Hear snapping noise in woods roughly to the left of me. Dragon looks up. Its head is pointed in a decidedly uncomfortable at me direction. Hide behind tree. What smells like ozone? Suddenly rushing sound, like a dam burst. About to look from behind tree but my judgment gets the best of me. Good fucking thing. Because I suddenly find myself a yard from a large stream of aggressive something. To this day I can't figure out what it was exactly. Going out of green text here for a second, it didn't seem to be exactly fire or a flammable substance, the movement was too jerky, but it didn't spark or crackle like electricity, and I still have the right half of my body, so I'm guessing it wasn't plasma. But it was sure as fuck burning anything it touched. A spark got kicked up and burnt a sizable hole in my shirt. Begin tactically praying in Old Norse once the fire dies down. Figure I'm not escaping so I may as well go out fighting. Jump out from behind tree ready to suicide charge a dragon. Hear rustling from same spot as before. Boom. Same roar as before, followed by some decidedly unpleasant shrieking. Large gaping hole opened in eye recess. Hear shouting. Get the fuck away from my cows you fucker. Holy shit it's Farmer Dan. Not looking at him, focusing on big fucker. It unfurls its wings and starts flapping, and takes to the sky with surprising expediency for something that had a torso the size of an RV. And it certainly felt like a large aircraft had just taken off. I was nearly bowled over from the force of the wind. It circles in the air once before heading out towards the lake. Stand there for a moment just plain vanilla dumbfounded. More movement. Brandish fireplace poker. Farmer Dan is now about 10 feet from me. The gun in his hands looked like an old-style break action, but the barrels were ridiculously large in diameter. My brain finally processes the fact that I'm being asked a question. Anon, what the fuck are you doing out here? Try my hardest to point out this is not the most important question to be asked in this situation. Finally managed to coax an answer out of him. Apparently, several of his longhorns went missing from the pasture, and he caught sight of it moving to that clearing after one more had disappeared. Hunter friends had apparently reported some weird goings on in his backwoods to him. Said they'd found some freaky shit and some biggest nest. Only one dead cow in this clearing however, and no nest to be seen. My brain refused to examine the possible meaning of those facts at the time. Ask him about the gun. Says he uses it to hunt whatever goes after his cows. The inflection implied this was not the first supernatural entity he'd shot at using this shotgun. Farmer Dan stops me before I get back on the path. Don't tell nobody about this, Anon. No use causing a fuss over some fairy tale nonsense. I am not about to disagree with a man holding what I can only assume is a 2 or less gauge. Walk back home and fall asleep. Wake up later that day, assuming it was all some sort of fucked up dream. Look down and notice hole in shirt was legitimately there. Brain reeling for not dragon related answers. Half-heartedly settle on this somehow being the shirt I'd burned slightly during a bonfire several years beforehand. Forced to confront reality when I notice said shirt lying on the floor. Decide then and there I'm moving to the largest city I can get to so I don't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. There was a huge rainstorm the next day so a lot of the char was washed out, but sure the fuck enough, when I went back to that clearing several days later it was filled with morel mushrooms, so it had to have been scorched at some point. I don't know what the fuck I saw, and I don't know if /k/ would have any better idea of what it was, but if I ever know that thing's in the area again, I'm finding as many /k/amandos as possible, and leading realities, probably, first dragon slaying raid.
Gonna try to tell one of my stories. This isn't pre-typed, so sorry if I take a while writing this whole thing out. Be me, 2 years ago. Live in Colorado, in a small town on the outskirts of the Rocky Mountains. Think Stardew Valley in the Rockies. Live on the edge of the town with my wife. Townsfolk are religious as fuck. Town has a old ass church, that is decked out to look like a fucking cathedral. I mean the church has a spire, stained glass windows, and even 2 fucking gargoyles. This will be relevant later. Anyways, the church is the pride and joy of this small town. Closest thing I can compare it to is Pick related, but with windows and gargoyles. One day in late September, we have a big ass storm. Think of the worst storm in your life, then multiply it by 10. I had to close the blinds in the house, because the lightning was so bright and frequent that it burned my closed eyes when I tried to sleep. The ground was actually fucking shaking. Fuck this shit.jpg. Wake up the next morning. Eat, shit, brush teeth, leave for work. Town is a fucking disaster. Trash strewn all over the place. Houses destroyed. One guy had the sole tree in his yard fall through his roof. Drive by the church, and see a bunch of people standing around. Look up. One gargoyle is missing. Completely gone, like it never even existed. Stop the car and get out. People are looking for the gargoyle, can't find any trace of it. Ask the parish priest/pastor about what happened to it. We think that someone stole it, Anon. You think that someone stole it in the middle of the storm last night, when I couldn't even bear to be in my own house. Yup. Okay then. .png. Actually go to work now. A week passes, still no gargoyle. The entire parish is pissed. Church holds a meeting, basically just pointing fingers. Considering leaving town, before Salem Witch Trials 2.0 happens. The next night, out of the blue, the parish priest disappears. Sorry for the cliffhanger. Entire parish is in a panic now. Surprisingly, I still think they are more concerned about the missing gargoyle than the missing pastor. Unlike the gargoyle, we find traces of the pastor. His second-floor bedroom window broken, and blood is smeared all over the back of his house. No body found. Police can't find anything else. Jesus, I hate this town. Needless to say, everyone is on edge. Paranoia sets in, townsfolk start boarding up windows, hoarding food and ammunition. No one trusts anyone. Think no man's land, but in a sleepy Catholic mountain community. Police, who are usually not busy, are now working their asses off. More and more people start disappearing. Police chief tries to enact some sort of martial law. Doesn't work. People start growing more and more desperate, everyone boards themselves up in their houses. I would have already skipped town, but I didn't want to leave my job or wife. Thanks to our location at the edge of town, our home life is mostly unaffected by this bullshit. However, it's a wasteland out there. At this point in time, you could drive from one side of town to another 5 times and not see anyone. I was required to go to work anyways. Fuck private law firms. I was driving home from work later that day. It was later than normal, and was dark outside. I look at a field to my left, and I see something gray. It's the fucking gargoyle. I stop and roll down my window to get a better look. It starts moving. The thing looks like it's having a fucking seizure. I roll up my window and floor it. No cops to give me a ticket anyways. Drive by church. The other gargoyle is missing too. What the fuck? Get home, shook as fuck. Close blinds, get on top floor. Wife asks what's wrong. Figure that the moving gargoyles and missing townsfolk are related. Tell her that the church gargoyles are Christmas caroling around the town. She thinks I am just being paranoid. Should finish up next post. Just as we finish saying this, we hear a roar coming from outside our house. Ponder how gargoyles can roar if they don't have vocal cords. JK, I freak out. Wife is spooked now too. I go downstairs to get my gun and any other weapon I can find. I have single M1911 pistol and legal paperwork. Hope it is enough to stop the ensuing gargoyle onslaught. Load my pistol, look out the window, and sure enough, I see the gargoyle. He brought his friend too. Tell my wife to get somewhere safe. She runs to the laundry room in the back of the house. I pick one gargoyle and open fire. I feel like a gothic Duke Nukem. The bullets do absolutely nothing. In fact, the gargoyles get more pissed off. One starts beating on the side of the house. Everything is shaking, and I'm out of ideas. I figure that I am just going to die here. Before I accept my death, I hear my wife scream. I realize that I can't let her suffer at the hands of these things. I run into the laundry room, and realize that the other gargoyle is banging on that wall. The wall is about to collapse, so we run to the bedroom and lock ourselves in. I hear the laundry room wall collapse, and hear the 2 gargoyles searching the house. They figure out we are in the bedroom, and start banging on the door. It is only a matter of time before they break through. Me and my wife hug each other, a lover's embrace. The door is about to come down. 3, 2, 1. Open the door. Get on the floor. Everyone walk the dinosaur.
B8 or 10. Mom has a phobia of intense storms due to being caught in a tornado when younger. She goes to a large building, church, store, etc. during bad storms, so I am home with my dad. Bedtime.jpg. I decide to sleep with my dad because storm. Lay in bed, back facing doorway and looking at opposite wall. On the wall, this gave the square doorway of light on the wall. See a shadow creep up the wall, like a person coming up behind me. Head and shoulders, half of the doorway is covered. Turn around and see nothing but the kitchen light. Look back at wall and shadow goes the rest of the way up and whole wall turns black. Close my eyes and start to try to get my dad up / pray. Eventually fall asleep. I've got a number of stories if you want 'em. Same guy here. Younger. Maybe 7 or so, elementary school. Share room with my sister. Mom comes in to wake us up for school. Half awake, getting up. Look at closet, see girl with hateful look and knife above the closet shelf. Stunned.jpg. Call my mom, she comes in and calms me down. Explain what happened. Don't worry Anon, you were just half asleep. Sister. No, I saw it too, she still remembers it to this day as well. Be a younger teen. Church Friday night youth event. Only kids from the church know about it. Everyone in the sanctuary, band playing. Old man walks in, this church was in the country, but still had houses around. Nobody knew the guy or how he knew we would be there. Old man looks like he is dead or suffocating. Pale skin, purple lips. He sits to himself in the back, rocking back and forth and mumbling in what seems similar to tongues but it felt bad. Put of your stomach dropped out, you want to puke, etc. In the midst of all this mumbling, you can hear his regular voice say things like, I'm sorry and don't mind me. Everyone is a little on edge, the band finishes their song and they get everyone to start praying. This goes on for a short amount of time until the guy gets up and walks out. After the youth night, my mom was talking with the band about how weird it was and they were convinced the dude was possessed. I'll try to get the next volume out quickly. I have noticed that creepy things have happened like this more when I've been closer to God. I did veer pretty far off course and didn't have much happen. As for the old guy, I agree. What made it weird is that there wasn't any reason for him to show up there or even assume anyone would be there. Him just driving by is a possibility, but again, it's kind of off the beaten path. I want to say, all of these are true. Not a product of my imagination, at least not intentionally. Live in woods, about 1/4 mile of dirt path. Trees cover the path and there is a big clearing for the house and a large field behind the house and farmhouses. Be 19 or 20. Me, friend, and GF, possibly another 1 or 2 people, decide to go exploring the woods behind the farmhouses. Walk to edge of the field, go into woods. Let's just see if we can find anything cool. Find run-of-the-mill garbage, random spots etc. Come across old rusted fence seeming to run all the way through the woods. Keep going. After a while we get to a super clean wood line. Large cutout in the woods, small metal building in the center with a large concrete pad. No visible openings in the trees around for vehicles. Can't figure out how or why this would be here. Concrete pad and most of grassed area surrounded by super clean concrete pillar / steel bar fence. See no markings or signage, just seemed weird for such a sterile place to be back in these woods. Never returned. One night, maybe 17-ish. Laying in bed, 2 or 3 a.m. Loud scream / roar comes from woods, opposite the side of the previous story. I can't describe this roar. It was like a man roaring from deep but also a ram or something dying. It was blood chilling. Hear something in the living room, go and see my dad looking out of the window. Dad heard it too. Both freaked out, go back to bed. Try to go to sleep. Note, I was actually talking with my dad the other day and this came up. He said it happened a separate time but my sister heard it. Sleeping in my room, this time the head of my bed is facing out of the room and down the hall. Randomly wake up and look down the hallway. At the opposite end of the hallway, a carton of eggs. Probably waist / chest high, spinning like a video game pickup. Freeze for a few seconds before shutting eyes and praying to sleep. Same room, this time the foot of my bed is next to the hallway. If you come in from the hall, and turn left as soon as you enter, that's my bed. Wake up in the middle of the night. Pit of stomach gone, terrible feeling. Open eyes and tall figure standing at the foot of my bed. Resembles Hat Man. Gape at it for a few seconds before I start praying as hard as I could. It stayed so long I began to cry. The pressure became overwhelming. Wake up the next morning very tired. Close to the time as the last incident. Laying in bed, falling asleep. Arms start to rise. I start to freak out, feel the same pressure. My hands are all the way up. Repeat last time as in prayer and panic until it feels like my hands are released properly. Freak out and try to go back to sleep. I've got one or two more and one big one coming. It's me, yeah boy. I think this is the last one, most of the other things are similar. Also known as shadows and Hat Man etc. Church camping trip. I'm around 14, best friend is the same. It's also his brother, and another dude who happened to be my closest neighbor. The oldest of us was around 16. We're at a larger lake in North Carolina, Lake Lure or Jordan Lake. Been having a good time, everyone having fun. Nightfall on second night, leaving tomorrow to go back to church and home. Neighbor and friends bro decide to ride to the water area to look around. Friend and I tag along. We ride through the trees on the paved paths to the paved swimming/boating area. Very clean paved area, tree line is flush with the water on the right side. We're standing close to the right tree line in front of the boat ramp with the car parked behind us. Throwing rocks, talking, looking at the water etc. We all get quiet as a hazy dim white ball starts to float up and off the water maybe 100 yards out. Hey man, you see that? Everyone confirms, WTF man etc. The ball floats a little higher, then directly over to the tree line on the right side. It's floating toward us now, almost halfway up the trees. We all freak out, run to the car and scramble to pile in. Rush back to the campsite and start talking about it. My friend and I end up talking with the pastor for a bit. Walking back to the tent with friend, see something out of the corner of my eye. Turn around, see nothing. On the way looking back forward, I see a girl in dingy white clothes. Freak out, tell friend to look back and nothing. Try to sleep, scared all night. Get back to church the next day, see friend's cousin and tell her about it all. She freaks out and tells me she just saw on the news that a kid went missing out there a little while ago. See a girl who died at the lake on the news that night, she died out there a couple of weeks before.
Post stories of strange happenings that don't really go anywhere. Be me. Boy Scout. Hiking to a big cabin in Innawoods with some basic amenities to learn some basic things. Older scouts leading us to cabin along a clearly marked trail. Scout masters are further back watching some of the younger scouts go behind a tree. We arrive at a clearing about halfway to the big cabin we're all staying in. Sudden stop.jpg. Biggest scout, Jake holding his arms out blocking us from going forward. Are we waiting? One of the guys I didn't know asks. No, look at that tree, Jake says pointing at a dead tree in the middle of the clearing. Just a tree, Phil says walking towards it before stopping in his tracks. Oh, I see it now. I had to squint my eyes to see, but there was a heat haze radiating from the tree, like the kind you see in the desert. One of the braver scouts walks up and touches it with the palm of his hand. Feels like a normal tree. We all just stood around the clearing entrance while some of the older scouts paced around the tree looking it up and down. Eventually scout masters catch up and seem as dumbfounded. One suggests it might be about to catch fire. Other thinks it's cool to sit around and watch and wait. Nothing happens. JPG. Get back on the trail after a good half hour of nothing. Go to cabin. Lights out. Everyone wakes up borderline dehydrated. Lines form behind the sinks instead of the kitchen like usual. Everyone contently sipping from water bottles and canteens for the rest of the campout. Fast forward to the last day and nobody is thirsty anymore. Go back on the trail to the parking lot and the weird tree in the clearing is gone without a trace. Everyone confused but shrug it off. Scoutmaster says it must have turned to dust completely and blown away. Sometimes we would joke about the sacred native Tree of Dehydration.
See a UFO while camping with my parents, age 8 or so. Devil's Lake, Wisconsin. Sitting around campfire. Starts to burn low around 10 p.m. See bright light a mile away in the sky hovers, brighter than stars. Point to parents and sister. Hey look. Rises slowly up, then pew, shoots off into the sky. Haha neat. We all think no more of it. Have weird nightmare. Came to standing in the woods 300 from the camper. What the? Walk back to the campground, walk down the little road until I find our tent, wake up my mom coming into the tent. Where were you, Anon? I dunno, I think I was sleepwalking. Okay, go back to bed. Wake up next day, tell parents I woke up in the woods. We look at the pop-up camper's tent, sure enough a few of the bungee cords had pulled loose, there was a gap between sliding platform and outside that a kid could easily slide through. Didn't connect it with UFO or anything, just a weird experience. Forget about the sleepwalking incident as well as the UFO. Years later, get into UAP. One day I just randomly remember the whole event and make that connection for the first time. Heh, it's probably nothing. I'm sure it was a coincidence, but very weird looking back on it all. No other events since then, and never saw another UFO.
I'm not sure how credible the story is, but I want to keep this thread alive because Innawoods threads are my favorite on this board. My grandpa told me about a time he thought he saw a UFO in the woods. I'll attempt to green text what I can. 1990s Innawoods in Michigan. Not necessarily a forest, just a square section of woods about a mile square surrounded by cornfields by his old house. Grandpa isn't someone who's superstitious by any means. Grew up poor, an avid hunter, and he chopped his own wood to heat their house, so he's always in the woods. Out late one night, maybe about midnight in January/February. A full moon, a lot of stars, blanket of snow, so the woods were bright due to the reflections and stuff, no cloud cover either. Sitting out under a tree, either from hunting raccoons or some shit, or cutting down trees to bring home. Grandpa's just enjoying the night and shit, yeah no? Everything is fine and normal until now, and when he told me his eyes went wide like he was scared, even though this happened maybe 10 years before he told me. Said out of nowhere the wind just stopped, the leaves stopped blowing, the trees stopped creaking. Everything was just black. He starts looking up at the sky and realizes he can't see any stars or the moon. Told me that he can still remember how quiet it was, said he's never heard anything that quiet. 10 or 15 minutes pass, or at least that's what he said it felt like. It was too dark for him to see his watch. The light returns and he can see the sky. Booked his ass home, leaving his shit by his makeshift day campsite. Wasn't very exciting, but he said whatever blocked out the moon/stars had to have been fucking big.
This is pretty much only because I have a lull story for y'all. I'm a mix of /k/amando/x/file, and out/gower. And I want to tell y'all the story of when I fucked with some California urbanite Innawoods LARPers while camping in Arkansas. Alright, here we go, be patient. Gonna green text. Be me. 3 months ago. Decide to go Innawoods because it's nice and cold, and I can use my new gear, plus no bugs. Grab Mosin, grab M50 Afghanka in VSR 93, grab Type 56 Jicom chest rig, green cage pants, 3-day pack, ammo, food, and some drink for good times. Pack up and head out, solid 34 degrees Fahrenheit and supposed to get lower at night. Get to trailhead and park my car. See a group of urbanites with their urbanite gear. Bright colors, shitty equipment, and I looked at their car. Mitsubishi Outlander, California licenses plates. MFW. They see me get out, I grab my nugget and gear and head out onto the trail. Look back, they are looking at me funny. Imau urbanites. Hike for maybe 2.5 miles, then turn to go to a camping spot I frequent. Solid 1 or 2 miles Innawoods off the trail. Get there, set up Pashpalatka tent, and get fire going. Comfy.png. Chill with Soviet GF next to me, and a nice hot bowl of chili I made from scratch. Sit out there for a few hours. Getting late, but not quite yet. Probably 4:30. Hear some commotion after sitting and reading for a bit. Look up from book. It's the California urbanites. They look lost and afraid. Harry, we are lost, why didn't you bring a map? Lilling on my tree stump seed. They are about 50 yards away from me, and they are coming my direction. They keep going and they step closer to my camp. I'm waiting for them to notice I'm there. Say hello, and the girls jump and yipe. They freak out and yell at me, then calm down. Because they recognize me. One of the girls speaks up. Why do you have a gun out here? That's so dangerous. Lulling inside, and respond to her. It's for my protection. She gets upset and tries to quip with, what are you going to defend yourself from? You maybe, I say to her. After a couple more minutes they scoot away. Fucking urbanites, I say to myself and continue with my Innawoodsing. Nightfall comes. Get settled in for the night. Hear noise I didn't hear before. Music, fucking techno music. It's coming from a way away. Hear hooping and loud talking as well. Urbanites again, damn it. Get idea. Don balaclava, grab nugget, and head away from camp towards them. Don't have to be quiet because the music is super loud. See lights from below a hill. Head up the hill, and when I get to the top, the urbanites are at the base, drinking and playing music on a speaker. Hunker down and watch them like a fucking stalker or some shit. Listen into their conversation after the music dies down and they are sitting around their fire. Talking about stupid urbanite stuff, liberal problems, wildfires over in California, etc. Eventually they say something about me. Calling me such a weirdo and a creep. Bitch.avi. One of the guys says I'm a bro because if they hadn't come upon me, they would still be lost. Get another idea, decide to stay until they get into their tents to commence the tomfoolery. They get drunk enough and get into their tents. Fucking finally. Game plan is to toss rocks at their tents, small ones to spook them. Wait for a solid hour to make sure they are comfy. Pick up a few rocks and get in position. Toss rock 1. Miss, wait. Toss another, miss, but closer this time. Wait. Toss the third and it bounces off the wall of their tent. Hear shuffling and movement in the tent. Throw another, direct hit. Someone sticks their head out of the tent I was throwing rocks at. Toss another really close to the person's head. Person freaks and yells. Starts whispering really quickly to the other people. Grab bigger rock. Chuck it and it lands fairly close to the tent's end. Lands and it's loud. Girl screams. Keeking. Grab a stick, big thick one. Find nice big oak. Start methodically hitting the stick as hard as I can on the tree. WTF is that? One of the chicks says. Sorry boys, fell asleep. Get better idea. Context, if you've ever watched Finding Bigfoot on Animal Planet. Bubba 1, if the investigators would howl/yell to attract a Bigfoot. Start howling or yelling like a Sasquatch. Start running around moving brush, and throwing tree limbs around. Can hear the urbanites, they are freaking out. Keeking even harder now. Let things calm down for a minute. Can hear someone crying slightly. Imao.exe. Get another idea, decide to run through their camp and touch their tent. Slowly head to the base of the hill, and sit at the bottom of their campsite. Sprint as loudly and as fast as I can. Beeline towards the other side of camp. Knock over chairs and cooler. And smack the shit out of one of the tents and kek. At the screaming urbanites. Run up the other side of the hill and listen to the freakout. Hear and see them start to pack up. One last troll. Throw a huge rock down the hill at them, while screaming like a monkey. Then circle around them and head back to my camp as fast as I can. Get there before they can start to leave. Watch them run through the woods with their rucksacks. Sleep soundly in my tent knowing the woods are safe now. Wake the next morning, and make some eggs. Pack up and head back to the car after a long night of trolling. Get back and see their car is still there. Get closer and they are sleeping inside of it. Megakek. Tap on the window. Y'all okay? They don't answer and start to drive off. The forest is now safe from the disgusting urbanites. Keep your forests clean, anons. That was my story. Pic related was me during the excursion.
Holy shit. OP posted a screen cap of my story. I finally found and killed the red thing about 3 months ago. Was the farm neighbors inbred/retarded and died for ID llama? Why they chose fake redhead red for a fur dye I don't know. Thing was furry as shit, like it'd never been sheared. I guess darkness does something to one's eyes cause it had normal legs for a llama. I saw it in broad daylight in one of my farm's gullies, immediately recognized it. It was laying down and looked exactly how I remembered it, and shot it with a 7mm mag. It never moved, so I shot it 3 more times. Finally get up the courage to go over to it, had blown out the far shoulder and most of its chest cavity. I swear I fucking love A-frames, with one of the shots and completely mutilated the ribs with the other 3. I gutted and skinned it and lo and behold it had a .243 bullet lodged in its neck vertebrae, which had healed, another one sitting against its left shoulder blade, which had also apparently healed, and a big divot missing out of its right eyebrow ridge, probably my first shot. The one I claimed hit a few inches behind an eye, that had also scarred over. No evidence of actually hitting it with my AR, but if I'd nicked it it wouldn't have shown. I also have an explanation for the black blood. Maroon wool dye or whatever the fuck they used, when fresh, plus blood black liquid. They must have just re-dyed the thing cause it was leaving dark smears in the leaves where it had been laying. I backtracked it to our property line fence and found several places it had laid down that were completely smeared in fur dye. Still have NFI why it was munching on dead coyote or even near a gut pile at all. Maybe it was mutated or something. Called the game warden with an I think I might have fucked up, but do you remember when? Yeah, I found it again and killed it. Should have told him you killed something that looked like what you describe, just to fuck with him. I did. He came out all tactical like with 3 sheriff's deputies in tow, then they collectively laughed their asses off when they realized I'd shot a llama in Laua. They even asked if I wanted to be a dick to the llama's owner since it's obvious he doesn't really try to keep his animals on his property by pressing charges. I told them I was good with having shot the damned thing. Then they asked me if I was gonna eat the thing. Hell fucking no, even after I knew what it was creepy as shit, and when I declined they helped me burn it. Came out all tactical like with 3 sheriff's deputies in tow. Why if you had already killed the fucker? Because I had creeped the ever-loving shit out of the game warden on the original incident and he very vividly remembered both my story and the evidence he collected. He still maintains that he's never seen anything like it to this day, and since I didn't tell him it was a fucking llama in the call to him he had NFI if there were more. Here's a quote, or at least as close as I can remember from the phone call. Alright Mr. Name, I'm on my way. Keep your rifle loaded and your head on a swivel. I know you said you killed it, but... sir, it's gutted and skinned. I blew the heart and lungs 10 feet out the other side of it. I'm pretty sure it's dead. Well, just in case, please. And be fucking careful. So, you killed your neighbor's expensive pet? In his defense, it had become a meat-eating freak.
I'm gonna dump one of my stories for y'all. I'll leave it up to you to believe it or not after your own mind, but for me this was the biggest nope moment I've had. Some background first. This happened in Boden, Sweden, a couple of years back. Boden is known for one thing, and one thing only, military forts. It was long thought of as the key to northern Sweden, the first thing the Sois would roflo stomp if they ever came charging. Those forts were secret as fuck in the past, and for some time one of the forts were used to store a large part of Sweden's gold reserve. However, after the Cold War ended, the forts became even more obsolete than before and were decommissioned. Anyway, the story. B21. Hang out with female friend that is more like the sister I never had. We are both scouts and have been for as long as we both can remember. Bored as fuck. Decide to go recon a cool campsite for the coming Halloween scare hike. My friend, let's call her H, knows a lot of cool old forts and trench systems. Drive off in my car, which was perfectly fine and had gone through inspection without a hitch only a week before. Decide to check out the nearest old fort. Park the car a couple of 100 meters from the old fort because someone had placed biggest stones as a crude roadblock on the dirt road leading to the fort. The fort is dug like Pick related, with the exception that only there is no road up to the fort. Pick is another fort near Boden. Walk/climb up to the fort from the right slope that's somewhat accessible. Any thoughts of recon for a campsite has soon been replaced by thoughts of exploration. It's about midday but the daylight is waning fast due to northern Sweden. Luckily we brought flashlights. Eventually locate a hole in the fence big enough for us to get through. Explore a bit, though all doors are locked either with massive padlocks or internal locks. Start to head back the way we came in. A thick door that we both were sure had been closed before is now slightly ajar. Not by much, just a couple of centimeters. We haven't heard any door opening or anyone else being here. This is a door about 1.5 meters wide, 2.5 meters tall and made entirely out of 1 decimeter of solid steel. And on rusty hinges it looks like. Remember that H told me before that the local wildlife seems to shun this place. Okay, getting a real bad feeling about this right now. We both keep our distance but our curiosity gets the better of us. We both try to peek inside. Pitch fucking dark inside. Except I sense something move inside. Don't really know how I know this, but I just get a very weird feeling. Like something is staring at us from inside. We both aim our flashlight and thumb them on. Flashlights both give a short burst of light and then go dead as doorknobs. And we put in new batteries before we went out. In the short picosecond we have light, I managed to get a glimpse of something. A gray-blackish humanoid shade that looks more like a beast than a man. At the same time something in my mind pushes the primal predator panic button. Nope 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 nope. I'm not sure what he saw, but she is white as a fucking sheet and as damn near panic as I have ever seen her. We both scramble out without saying a word to each other. We both must have broken the record on 200 meters panic sprint. Don't know about H, but I felt a something. Can't describe it more than a terrible sense of hate following us. Get in the car. I turn the key. Nothing. Try to turn it again. The car won't start. The headlight won't even turn on. Eventually, after turning the key frantically again and again for the longest 2 minutes in my life, the car starts. We get the hell out of Dodge with gravel flying everywhere as I floor it until we get back on the main road. Later learned through other friends that there has been other similar occurrences there, some hearing a faint but very much mocking laughter coming from beyond that door and others feeling watched when they are near the fort. The door have never been ajar before or after though, and it has always been locked when anyone has tried to open it. Damn, I still get the shivers just by thinking of it. And it has been 5 years since that happened. I can add that neither H nor I have been back inside the fence of that place.